Well, hello everyone. It is Monday, the end of April, April 27th, and we will be in the month of May very soon here. And so just wanted to talk to you today on Mindset Monday. Um, and it is going to be about intuition. So, intuition, everybody has it. And so I started thinking about this topic last week and the week before. I said, um, I follow my intuition a lot, and it's helped me in multiple situations where it is that aspect of going with a gut feeling. Um, and so I wanted to see what you guys thought about intuition. And we'll go through this and then maybe we'll have a little bit of time at the end and we can talk about some ways that intuition has helped you. And so let's start the PowerPoint here. And I'm going to see if I can get the, hold on just a second, pull that up. Okay, I've got it here, and I'm gonna see if I can start it from the most current slide. Okay, so you guys can see this? Whoops. Okay, great. So intuition, your quiet superpower. And, we talk about having mindset, and I feel like, there are superpowers that we don't talk about a lot, and it's intuition's one of them. And so I wanted to just sort of relate intuition as a superpower, but also how top agents can use it. And I have used it on several occasions during real estate transactions, meeting up with certain buyers, meeting up with certain sellers. And so let's just talk about how that is. The truth most agents miss about intuition is that they don't, you know, that your best decisions don't always have to come from data. And, we're in a data-driven world in real estate. We use data pretty much on a daily basis in that aspect of how we can influence. And so I want you to start thinking of, can I use data, but also use intuition? Um, and one thing that agents miss a lot is you already know more than you think. So a lot of times we focus in just on certain things and we don't really use our own knowledge that's been built up over years, built up pretty much from your day of birth on, because we program our mind every single day. And so intuition, that starts at an early age, and you can see it with some kids. Um, and a lot of times they'll try things and then they'll have somebody shut them down, a parent shut them down, or a coach or somebody, and because they're fearful for them. And a lot of times we put our intuition in the background of our mind. So I want you to start thinking about intuition as being a fast pattern recognition. Okay, it's recognition of something that can come to you, and a lot of times we push it away. So what intuition really is, it's this gut feeling. It's a instant clarity on something. And a lot of times, if you close your eyes and sit for a second, you will actually get the right answer because it's already within you. It's already there, and you might have already experienced it before. And so when you take the time to just ask the question of what should I do? What should I think? How should I respond to this? A lot of times, if you just take a second, that intuition will pop up and you'll have the clarity and the right answer. So has anybody ever had like a gut feeling that you're like, I don't know about this person, and that energy that you might be receiving from them is either something that you've experienced before that comes to you, and you're like, I need to make a better decision about this. I'm just going to follow my gut. So that's their intuition working. And I've had that with a buyer before, where I met with this buyer and I was feeling this really weird vibe, if you want to call it a vibe, or that gut feeling. And I said, I'm not going to be able to help you. And I actually referred this buyer to a man realtor. And it was because this guy saw my sign and called on the sign. And then when I met him at the house, I just had a really weird feeling. And then that male agent that I referred him to said it's a good thing that you didn't take on that client, because all he did was talk about you and how he wished that he could work with you. And it was all sort of a sexual connotation. And so I am so glad that I used my gut feeling, because the safety aspect of real estate for females is very different than it is for males. So I want you to try not to ignore that gut feeling. And why agents ignore it is because they overanalyze. We overanalyze everything. In real estate, we've got, so many different opinions. You have an opinion from the neighbor, you have an opinion from the appraiser, you have an opinion from the inspector. And a lot of times this fear of being wrong, if we voice something that we have, it's really intuition. And noise, there's so much noise. Think about that. Think about all the noise that we hear when we're working with the transaction. We've got buyers and their parents, we've got sellers and their ex spouses, or all this noise just comes in, and a lot of times it puts us in a position where we can't think straight. And so the reason why I wanted to do this topic is because I'm there with you guys. I know exactly that feeling. And maybe what we can do is try to, like I said, before you do something, see if you can get some clarity about it. And here's what happens, with the cost of ignoring your intuition. A lot of times you can have missed transactions in the aspect of you're working with the seller. And I did a topic on DISC not too long ago. And DISC is, where you've got different personality traits. And if you tend to not use your intuition or think about that aspect of what is that personality of that seller when you're meeting with them, then you can actually react differently, use different types of analysis with them, instead of just following, your gut feeling about that seller and what that seller's personality is and how you can adapt to it. And also, I don't know if you knew this, but intuition can also, if you don't use it and you're only following data-driven types of speaking and things like that, you can actually have weak leadership, because you're not really following that gut feeling or that intuition of how something should go with your team, or with leading something in other types of things besides real estate. So there could also be pricing hesitation. And when I thought about this, I was like, you're right, because a lot of times that fear of what the seller would think, or that fear of the seller not trusting you, can cause you to actually price houses incorrectly, versus going with your gut feeling of where you think that property is going to sell. We have the knowledge. All right. So if we have the knowledge and then we end up doing something out of fear, a lot of times we can price things wrong. So I want you to start thinking about, you are certain. And if you have a little bit of doubt on something, just stop, even close your eyes, breathe, ask the question, and I promise your intuition will answer you correctly. So when I'm talking about that aspect of, let me see if I can move this. So intuition versus fear. Your intuition is always going to be calm. It's always going to be very clear, and it will come to you quickly. A great example is if you are working on your business plan and you're thinking of that dollar amount that you want to make um, each year. I always tell my students and tell the people that I'm working with on my team is try not to talk yourself out of that number, because a lot of times that number will be fearful. For example, newer agents will be thinking, I don't know if I can make $100,000 this year. That just sounds like a really big number. And I'm like, well, what number popped into your head the very first when I asked you how much money you want to make and you want to base your business plan on it? And they're like, well, I want to make $100,000. And I'm like, well, that needs to be your goal, because that was your intuition telling you that's where you want to be. So many times we hear all of this other stuff and we talk ourselves out of things instead of going with that clear and quick, decisive answer. When there's fear surrounded, there's a lot of this emotion will come up. And I've had that happen with sellers in that fear aspect of, I think I'm selling my house too cheap. Or if you starting to talk to them about price reductions, the fear will come up. They get a little bit loud when they're talking, and that urgent feeling of, what should I do? And then a lot of times they base emotion around it. And so if you start thinking about your intuition, you are needing, if you follow it, you'll know that it's a calm, clear, and quick type of decision. Okay, now for some reason, my PowerPoint, there we go. So how do you train your intuition? Well, you can actually train it. You can start by not overanalyzing, just making fast decisions. And I would track those outcomes. So that way you'll start to know, oh, that actually did work for me. And then track the things that didn't work, that you actually might have taken too long on thinking about. So track those outcomes. When I say reduce the noise, what I mean by that is you can actually, in the morning before you start your day, you can ask yourself and ask, your spirit or energy or whatever you want to call it, say, I'm going to trust my intuition. And I've been thinking about this situation, and what is the best answer for this? And then you just breathe, you can close your eyes, and that just listen. And if you listen, it will come, and then write it down. So a lot of times people, they don't trust their intuition. And I don't know why they don't trust their intuition, but they back it off and they ignore it, and then they're sorry. They're like, wow, I wish I had gone with that thought that I had. So confidence will start to grow, So once you start having evidence, have you ever like lost your keys and you are like searching all over the place, frantic because you're late and you got to go? And then if you just stop and breathe and just be silent for a second and let go of all the friction, then you're like, oh, I remember where I put my keys. I do this a lot because I will take my keys out of my purse and I'll put them in a pocket. And I'm like, okay, that's probably where they are. And then I have to go and look through my coats, and then I'll end up finding it. So that's just a little sample of how intuition works. But I promise you, your brain knows, because you've seen it, you've done it, and your brain and your mindset has gone through the experience. And so if you start tracking stuff like this where you followed your intuition, you'll start to see that using it is going to be a lot better than being frantic and running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So ask yourself things like this. Does this listing feel overpriced? And that's usually when you are talking with the seller, because the seller wants a certain price, and you know, after looking at the data where it really needs to be priced, and you also know your experience, because you've experienced so much more than a seller has. What about this buyer isn't serious? Oh my gosh. Have you had that? Have you had that where they are just using you and you're getting this feeling of, okay, it's been 3 years and these buyers have not pulled the trigger. They really, really, really just aren't serious. And then think about when a deal is going to probably fall apart. Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever had, you're talking to the buyer agent on your listing, or you're talking to the seller agent on when you're working with the buyer, and you just have that feeling, and then it happens, then the deal. So maybe you can use your intuition first and trust it, so that you can make sure that that deal doesn't fall apart, because you've seen the signs, and you're going to make sure that you do everything to keep it together. So when it comes to leadership, and all of us are leaders in our business, and I want you to start thinking about these 3 C's: certainty, confidence, and clarity. So when you're working with a client, or you're working with other types of team members, if you have that certainty and you are trusting yourself and you have the confidence and the clarity, well, guess what? Your client's going to feel the same thing. They're going to feel very certain. They're going to trust you because you have that confidence, and they love it that you've got that clarity. And then what we mean by winning listings is you've got to have that kind of mindset. And there's this book called Presence. I'm trying to remember the name of, I think it's Amy Cuddy. So look that up. It's called Presence. And she talks about this certainty, confidence, and clarity aspect of things, and how to use your intuition. And she had that happen. Amy Cuddy, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of her, but she talks about how she was in a very violent car crash, and it hurt, and her brain was damaged, and they told her that she really had a high IQ. She had a PhD. She had all of this stuff, and they told her that she probably was never going to be the same because of this brain injury. But her intuition kept telling her that she was going to be fine. And because everybody telling her these negative things, she just blocked it out, because she was like, I am not going to be that person that can't use their brain the way that I used to before. And so she just kept having the confidence, and she was very clear, and she did affirmations on healing. And before she knew it, her brain had healed even better than it was before. And she wrote this book about how her presence and the confidence that she had in herself rubbed off on the nurses and the doctors and everybody. So they started really seeing her and started coaching her and started saying, yes, you are healing. Yes, you are going to, your brain and your everything happening with the healing is happening. And so she used that in presentations and started telling people that your confidence and the way you use your mindset can actually heal you and change you if there's something that you want to heal or change. And so I want you guys to think about these 3 C's: the certainty, the confidence, and the clarity, and using that intuition with your presence. What I do before I go into a listing is I look at myself in the mirror And I talk about it. I say, you've got this. And when I go up in front and when I'm about to ring the doorbell or knock on the door, I see myself as huge. Like I'm so big that I can hardly fit through the doorway. And that energy, guess what that seller feels when they open the door, right? It sort of like slams him in the face like, wow, who is this girl? Who is this person? I want to talk to this person. Okay, so think about that and that intuition of I've got this. So identity shift is I want you to, move from thinking too much about it to making decisions. Just less hesitation and having that presence. So when you look at this woman at this table, you see how everybody's looking at her, and can you just by looking at her at this table with her arms the way they are sort of spread out and touching the table like that, can you feel that energy aspect of that confidence? And that's why I'm talking about that book Presence, because she talks about the way you stand. Um, she interviewed people with, she watched people during interviews before they went into an interview and how some were slunched over versus some that were sitting up straight before they walked into the interview. And that's what I'm talking about. I want you to have that identity shift, less hesitation, and a much, much stronger presence, and start making very clear decisions. So really the final takeaway with this is you already know. And that's the thing I have to tell people so many times when I'm talking to them or asking them questions. They hesitate with their answers because they don't have the confidence in themselves. If you can just trust your inner wisdom and know that you already know, your brain has built up so much over all these years from the day you were born, and you've probably heard this before. We learn more from the day we're born to the age 7 than we learn for the rest of our lives. And so your brain and everything that it's taken in knows. And we can program it, okay, because there's a lot of negative stuff that's been, as you've grown up, there's a lot of negative stuff that goes in there. And we start to lose that confidence, and we start to lose that inner trust. And so think about it again. The first signal is always going to be right. The intuition that you have is your edge. It's always going to be your edge, because there's going to be somebody else out there that is going to be competing against you. And I want you to know that your competition is you. You are your only competition. Don't worry about anybody else, but know that there are going to be other people that aren't going to be trusting their inner wisdom. And you're going to have the clarity, you're going to have the confidence, and just start trusting yourself. Trust yourself in the big decisions that you have to make within real estate. Because when you trust yourself, your buyer or seller is also going to trust you. And it's a beautiful thing when everybody trusts each other, and you'll see more closings, you'll see smoother transactions. And I think that, what you need to do is just really start today. Start today with 3 decisions. If you have a decision you need to make, pause briefly, check that directional aspect of your intuition, and just ask. That's all you got to do is just ask. Just say, what should I do? I trust myself to make the best decision. A lot of times when you go into certain situations, scan the room, look for certain social cues that might come up that might adjust your approach in that aspect. And that's where I was saying that DISC, knowing what type of buyer or seller that you're working with based on their personality trait will also help you to make really good social cues. And then mentally synthesize that key data. Because remember, I just said, we already know. All right. So we should know just from the data that we can read, um, using ChatGPT or any of these other AI things is awesome. It helped me build this PowerPoint, right? I asked ChatGPT to help me build this PowerPoint based on intuition and real estate, and it gave me some great points. But I also trust my integrative sense of how I should do this, right? How I should put this together. So you can ask, you know, AI anything now, but I also want you to be able to trust your own intuition when it comes to answers. So again, trust your read and then take action. Don't just become numb, because a lot of times what's happened with fear is we've made a lot of mistakes and then we get afraid of making that mistake again. Just know that you've learned. You've learned from the failure, and from that knowledge, now you can trust yourself. Yeah, we're always going to have mistakes in life or failures, but don't look at them as things that to avoid. Look at them as, what did you learn from it? And just know this, that intuition is the highest form of intelligence. It transcends all individual abilities and skills. Did you know that? It's the highest form of intelligence. So I hope you like this topic. And what time is it? So we've got like 3 minutes. If anybody wants to tell a story about using intuition, anybody here? You can just unmute. You don't have to chat. Nobody? Well, I'm surprised, because I know there's been some things that your gut has told you, I don't think I should do this. And my example was a good one with, meeting a buyer, that I just had that feeling and I was like, I don't think I want to be alone with this person in a house. And I'm so glad that I've used that intuition.
I
Hey,
had that,
Monica.
Monica.
Okay, tell me who talked
Oh,
first?
The
go ahead,
silence is
Rob.
killing me.
Oh my God.
So, I- as a former educator, I think that sometimes you care so much that you want to give, for example, another chance. You want to help people, but the data has shown you time and time again that this is not going to work out, and to trust your intuition versus your values, and the trust that you are, I guess, the values that you have to take care of people sometimes
Yeah,
overrides your intuition, and your intuition is
that's good.
telling you,
Yeah.
no, don't do it. And you go anyway to try to help people.
And
And I
then
don't
they
think I'll ever
become,
stop helping, but
I know, but then they become like a vampire. They suck your energy and you're like, I knew that I shouldn't take this on because this person, and you always want to help, but then there's these people that's just the way they are, and they just suck your energy dry, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And then you start to try to avoid them, and you're like, I wish I had listened to my intuition from the beginning and never took that on. So we got to learn, we say yes a lot as realtors, and sometimes we got to learn to say no. And that's a good point when it comes to your intuition, because your intuition's saying no. And then you're like, "Oh, just go ahead and try it." And they're like, "Oh my gosh. Why didn't I just go with my gut?" So, good one. Was there anybody else?
Oh, I was just that Mark creepy guy that
Oh, that creepy guy.
had no teeth, and I had my intuition, but I I was also in that desperate mode of like, I need a paycheck. And
Yep.
so I put myself in really uncomfortable situations being alone with him, and then questioning my whole family was mad. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it didn't work out anyway. So,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Yep.
I wish I would have listened to my
So
intuition
you,
sooner than I did,
exactly. Yep.
because
All
I
right.
knew.
So you learned a valuable lesson, and from now on, you'll
Mhm.
trust your instincts.
Mhm.
So, well, great topic, you guys. And so I hope you have a great week and go out and, like I said, make 3 decisions today, just using your intuition and try to just be calm and collective and know that you already know this. Okay? Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Monica.
Welcome.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.